I've thought about doing this video for months now. I just needed to be ready to do it. My name is Jasmine Pierre, and throughout my childhood and my teenage years, I was molested and violated by my own brother. When you are sexually abused by someone, especially in your own family, it can really change you. And throughout my life, I did go through some changes. What my brother did to me impacted the trust I had for other people, family, friends, people I've dated. Like, it really, because it made me think, like, well, if they are nice to me and if they love me, does it mean that they are going to do the same thing to me that my brother has done? Because, you know, he said that he loved me and cared about me too. So it has impacted my life in ways. And in my early 20s, I was very angry for a long time. But at that point, I had still been repressing all of the memories, all of the trauma and everything that he did to me, because I just wanted to act like it didn't exist. I just wanted to be normal. But by not facing what happened to me, it kind of made me spiral for a little while. And I started to find my way back. However, it's still been a difficult journey because I have not come to terms with the fact that my brother molested me until this year. Like, I had never really come to terms with it. However, it wasn't just molestation. He used to steal from me. He used to manipulate me and verbally abuse me. Not just me, but other people in my family too. But I was the one that got molested by him. I am from New Orleans, Louisiana. However, when my parents got divorced, when I was about 5 or 6 years old, my mother moved my brother and I to Louisville, Kentucky, which is her hometown. And when we first got there, we started living with my grandmother. And that's when things started. It has been a very hard year for me because I lost my dad, and he was everything to me, and he did not know that his son was molesting me. And I never wanted to tell him because I did not want to break his heart. My dad was a very kind and loving person, but he did not condone stuff like that at all. And I knew it would hurt him. So I did not tell him. However, I did tell my mother once when I was a little girl. At first, I wasn't sure what was going on. And I'm telling people this story because I'm sure there is someone out there like me who was a child and might not have understood at first what was happening to them, and then they blame themselves. So this is why I'm telling my story. It started with inappropriate kissing. And it wasn't on my mouth, but you know, it doesn't have to be on your mouth for it to be inappropriate. But I was only a child, and I wasn't exactly sure what was happening, but I knew that it felt wrong and weird. And he kept doing it when he got me alone. And he kept doing it when he got me alone, when my mom was sleeping or when she was at work, because my brother is 5 years older than me. You know, he was supposed to be my protector. So I told my mother one day, it was in front of him, it was in front of her, and it was in front of his counselor, because he had a counselor at that point, because like I said, he was stealing, he was lying, so he had a counselor. And I told them what was happening, that he was kissing me strangely. And I really don't remember my mom saying much of anything, but the counselor was just like, well, if he just does it again, then bite his tongue, because he was using his tongue. And I was just like, well, he's not even kissing me on my mouth. How can I? It was stupid. But this just goes to show you how horrible some of these mental health services are, especially during the 90s, because they didn't even report what I said. Like, I literally said this in front of a counselor, and they did not report it. And I don't remember anything being done, no follow-up questions. I was just a little girl too, so I didn't even realize back then that there was supposed to be a protocol. Wasn't none. There wasn't. So when nothing was done is when I started to repress the trauma that was happening to me. Because, you know, I said it in front of my brother, but he just got sneakier in the ways that he would do stuff to me. Besides the inappropriate kissing, there was inappropriate touching. There was staring at me when I got out the shower. There was sniffing my underwear. You know, stuff that a brother should never do to a sister. And it got to the point that every time it happened, I just tried to act like it didn't happen. Like I didn't see it. Like, he wasn't doing these things, even though he was. Throughout all the things he has ever done to me, in between those times, he would give me gifts or money, or like he would do this even with my mother sometimes, you know, before he stole from us, or before he would do something sick and inappropriate to me. Like, he would just do stuff like this. So it was very confusing for me growing up, because it was so confusing, because one minute he would be so nice to you and the next minute he would be doing some messed up stuff to you. And as I got older, he has claimed that he has tried to change. And, you know, I tried to continue to act like some of the things he did to me never happened, even though that they did. And he was still in my life. But after my dad died is when he started to display some of the behaviors he had when we were growing up. And that is how my PTSD symptoms got triggered. I took care of my dad throughout his battle with cancer, and when he died, he, you know, like when people die, they leave you in charge of certain things. And you know, when family members die, some family will show their true colors because of reasons. And that's all I'm going to say, because I don't even want to get into all of my business with that. But because I took care of my dad and because he left me in charge of certain things, my brother felt some type of way about it. I guess because he's older and he felt more entitled to be in charge. So he started harassing me about certain things, legal aspects. He started harassing some of my other family members, trying to convince them to tell me to leave him in charge. And he was doing a lot of this right after my dad died. Right after. Which I feel is one of the cruelest things that someone can do, especially since you molested me. So why are you even worrying me about being in charge of anything? And you molested me. Did you not forget that? Did you not forget that? And I actually confronted him about it. And he kind of halfway lied. He did admit to the inappropriate kissing, but he wouldn't admit to anything else. And he told me if I was to tell anybody, he would sue me because I was lying. That's what he said to me. Throughout the last few months, I have had to call the police on my brother. He was harassing me on social media. He was still harassing some of my other family members. And, you know, all of this was during the pandemic, like right before we had the lockdown. This was happening. So I went from going through all that, having to call the police on my brother, and then everything being shut down, and we have to stay in the house unless it's necessary. And that's when the PTSD symptoms started to really get bad. And I did not know what was going on. I have dealt with depression and anxiety for most of my life. However, the PTSD it was something different. Having flashbacks of things that he did to me, being very jumpy and just afraid that he's going to try to do these things to me again. And this was all because he would just not leave me alone about my dad's affairs. It was all over this, and I kept telling him, can you please, I kept telling him, can you please stop? Can you please cut it out? I said, you're making me feel some type of way. Can you please stop? And he just would not stop. I asked him for months, and he just would not stop. I finally confronted my mother again a couple of months ago, and I told her, I was like, you know, that your son used to molest me, right? I was like, do you remember me telling you about the inappropriate kissing during his counseling session? And she said no, she doesn't remember. So I was like, that was a really long time ago, so maybe I should just refresh her memory. And then I also told her about other stuff that he did. And what happened next was very shocking to me. She said to me that when I was a little girl, that my grandmother told her that he was touching me inappropriately and she didn't like how he was touching me. And she did not believe my grandmother. And she said she watched him for a while and saw he didn't do anything, so she let it go. And she admitted that she was sorry about that, but it did not make sense to me because my grandmother said this before the inappropriate kissing happened. My brother was touching me before I could even remember. And I asked my mom, I was like, why did you never say anything to me? You just watched him for a few weeks. I'm like, you know your son. He is very manipulative. Why wouldn't you ask me if he was doing something? Maybe if you would have asked me, I could have recognized these things. So, she tells me she's sorry and stuff, but we have a conversation a couple of weeks after that, and I don't really have a close relationship with my mother. She's actually cut off now because of what I'm about to say, but I was trying to work our relationship out because my dad had died, and I'm like, well, that's still my mom. Let me at least try, even though she has been very verbally abusive and manipulative throughout my life too. So we got into an argument about something, and she basically blamed me for my brother molesting me. She brought up this situation. My mom basically brought up a time when I was a little girl and I had gotten out the shower. And when I was a little girl, before I realized my brother was molesting me, I was carefree because I felt like I was around my mom and my brother and I was safe and I was protected. And I got out the shower one day and I didn't have any clothes on. And I was in front of my mom and my brother. And she blamed that moment and said, well, you remember that time that you got out the shower and you was in front of your brother and stuff and you was horsing around. I was like 6 or 7 years old. Do you know how many kids are around their family members and they get dressed and stuff? And I was disgusted because she literally blamed the little girl getting out the shower on me being molested by my brother. And she does not even know that after that happened is when he started looking at me getting out the shower and didn't know that I saw him. He was really good at knowing how to unlock doors, all that kind of stuff. So he would watch me. And she did not know that after that happened, he started watching me. So when she told me that, I started to blame myself and I felt suicidal. However, I've come really too far in my journey to just I didn't feel like I wanted to die, but I didn't feel like I wanted to die, if that makes sense. I said that I was going to try and get help, and I didn't know how, because like we're literally in the middle of a pandemic and services are expensive. However, thankfully to Taraji P. Henson and her Boris L. Henson Foundation, they were giving out free therapy sessions, 5 free sessions, and I had enrolled the first time trying to get it and didn't get it, and I enrolled the second time like right after the conversation with my mom, and I got it. And they let you choose your provider, which is amazing. So I went through the list of people, and I actually found a Black woman who specializes in toxic mothers and childhood sexual abuse. So I was just like, I clicked her name right away, and I was just like hoping that she would be a good match for me. And she ended up being a good match for me because she ended up helping to save my life. We talked about things, and she helped me to start understanding like what was happening to me. I had suppressed the trauma of what my brother had did to me for most of my life, and when you do stuff like that, if you get re-triggered and you don't know what to do in that situation, it can be horrible and it can be deadly. So for the first time ever, I was able to just talk to somebody about what had happened to me. I was really starting to give up hope in finding a good mental health care provider for me, because I've been in and out of this mental health system, and just to be honest, it has not been easy. So the fact that I found somebody, and we have been talking for a few months now, I made her my regular mental health care provider after the 5 free sessions because she was so wonderful. She listened to everything that I had to say. She was not judgmental. I just finally felt heard by a mental health professional in the first time ever. And that was amazing because last year I had a horrible experience with a therapist who was hitting on me. And you can just kind of imagine how horrible that was, because I was actually going to start talking to him about the sexual abuse that my brother had done to me. And I had to, stop seeing that therapist because of how inappropriate he was. So I was really starting to give up hope. The Boris L. Henson Foundation really helped to save my life during a time that I really, really needed help. Which is why I am making this video, because this year has been traumatic to so many people already, but we have to remember there are others out there who are still dealing with trauma from years ago that we don't even know of, and that trauma can come up too during a pandemic. So I have been taking the necessary steps to take care of myself. I've been learning more of how to take care of myself and my PTSD symptoms. Like I said, I see my mental health professional regularly now, and I have more hope. I just want anyone who has been sexually abused by a family member to know that you are not alone, and you do not have to be silent about what happened to you, and you do not have to keep associating with abusive family members who you have forgiven time and time again, and they keep crossing your boundaries. You do not have to do that. Just because they are your blood does not mean that they have to stay in your life. I hope this video helps somebody, and I feel more free. So I feel like it also helped me.